One day, the legend will be born. All of civilization depends on it.
There's a crusade coming. I must not fear. Fear is the mind killer. Where the fear is gone, only I will remain.
Hey everyone. Lately I've been sharing with you images of deleted scenes from the Dune movie. In this video I'd like to show you exactly what was removed from the final cut of Dune 2021 and share the type of film that we might have seen with a longer cut. If you like these kinds of videos, please don't forget to like, share and subscribe and click the bell so that you can be first to be notified of new videos. Giving that like rating will help the YouTube algorithm find my video and share it with more people. Now that is out of the way, let us get straight into this Dune extended cut video. We have a lot to cover, so let's get to it. If anyone doubts that there was an extended cut or a longer version of this Dune movie, check out this Dune edit by Joe Walker. It clearly goes well over 3 hours. Just as Kevin Smith stated, this was probably an assembly cut that Kevin Smith's friend saw, but Jason Momoa has also implied that he has seen a longer cut, a 4 to 6 hour version of the first half of the Dune movie, aka Part 1. As I shared with you before the release of the Dune movie, there was a scene that was cut right at the beginning of the Dune film of Jason Momoa free-falling from space to the planet of Arrakis in his pursuit of finding the Fremen on the orders of Duke Leto. In a draft of the Dune script, the scene is described as follows. Arrakis looms against the stars, a desert world. At the equator, a vast rust-coloured hurricane slowly churns. A stealth ship rockets towards the surface of the planet, a sleek two-seater with a darkened hull and no markings. In the upper atmosphere, the ship plunges into the air, vapour screaming over the hull. Friction heats the shuddering fuselage to a red glow. From afar, we see the ship blazing down like a falling star. Below, a sea of sand dunes meets a rocky ridge. The ship plunges towards the desert, terrifyingly fast. At the last moment, the pilot pulls up, crushing the commander with G-forces, skimming over the dunes 100 meters up. Ahead, the rocky ridge rushes to meet him. The pilot flashes the commando a series of hand signals. The commando replies by thumping the canopy with his fist, ready. The pilot pulls up hard, aiming for the stratosphere, and as the ship climbs away, the drop chute opens. The commando falls free, no parachute, a dark figure in free fall on the commando as he touches his belt, activating a suspensor harness, a hum of power as the suspensors fight the force of gravity. The commando falls into view, decelerating fast, lands on his feet, taking the shock with his legs, pulls off his helmet. He is broad-shouldered and lean, clean-shaven, late 30s. He radiates quiet competence, even in this hellish place. He is Duncan Idaho. So instead of the opening being Chani and the Fremen fighting the Harkonnen, it was Duncan Idaho, and then the title reveal, Dune. During the Gom Jabbar scene, Paul screams in agony. We saw it in the trailer, but we did not see it in the theatrical cut. And this is how the extended scene would go.
You inherit too much power.
Not because I'm a Duke's son.
Because you are Jessica's son. You have more than one birthright, boy. You have proven you can rule yourself. Now you must learn to rule others. Something none of your ancestors learned.
My father rules an entire planet.
He's losing it.
He's getting a richer one.
He'll lose that one too. Jessica?
In another scene that was cut, Jessica trains Paul on Caladan beside the fireplace, the same one she walks past when taking Paul to the Reverend Mother. Originally in the Dune movie, the first sight of Stilgar is when he spots a highliner in the skies of Arrakis, bringing the Atreides to their new home. In Duke Leto's office in the Arakin Keep, Thufir Hawat, Gurney Halleck and the Duke find a box. The gift was left behind by the Baron Vladimir Harkonnen with a note that reads, "My dear cousin Leto, welcome to Arrakis. There's a lot to learn. I thought I'd give you a few pointers." The Duke opens the box, and what he finds inside is truly gruesome. He discovers hundreds and hundreds of severed fingers. They belong to unfortunate spice workers. Rebecca Ferguson implies that the greenhouse scene may have actually been shot, where she reads a message left by Lady Margot Fenring, hidden under leaves.
You know the bit with when she read all of the under the leaves? Can we bring that back, Fred? Do you remember? the greenhouse? No, we can't. It's done.
Oh, the green.
Yes!
Okay.
And she walks in and she starts reading messages underneath the leaves.
Yes.
Great scene if you would have had that in the movie.
The banquet scene was a scene that many people wanted to see, but it didn't actually make the final cut. In these shots, Jessica is wearing a ravishingly red dress. It makes a very slight appearance in the Dune movie when Duke Leto is scolding Thufir Hawat after the failed assassination attempt of Paul Atreides. Jessica wears many different dresses in this movie, and the argument here is that Jessica did not change into a ravishingly red dress simply to tell Thufir Hawat off. It makes no sense. There was clearly more of a scene here that was shot based on that dress. Perhaps the banquet scene itself wasn't actually shot, but there definitely were scenes reminiscent of a banquet scene. We could call it the party scene. In the script, it was a gathering of delegates welcoming the house to Arrakis, and there is plenty of evidence for this banquet scene / party scene. In this scene, we see Kynes arriving, and she is dressed quite smartly and appropriately for this occasion, wearing jewelry, a necklace and a bracelet. We get the full scene in a photo beside the table, which is the banquet table. The table wasn't set here with food and cutlery, but it was used later on by the Baron Vladimir Harkonnen when he eats, and that's where we see food on that table. But this is definitely the banquet table. We see Jessica wearing the jewelry on her wrist as she does in the scene with the red dress. Now this dress appears to be either covered or a dress change has occurred where she's in something more comfortable. Perhaps a dress that she uses to go to bed. We see Duncan wearing formal attire, dressed very smartly, and we never see this anywhere else. In fact, all of them are dressed very formally and smartly. In this scene, it appears that Paul has retired for the evening, wearing the same clothes that he was wearing before the banquet table. He gets changed into his pajamas, and then the hunter-seeker scene occurs. There is a cut sequence where they use a sonic probe to see through the walls, trying to locate the Harkonnen assassin. What follows is Jessica and Duke Leto meeting to discuss the events that occurred, scolding Thufir Hawat. We get a scene between Paul Atreides and Thufir Hawat, where Paul almost consoles Thufir. Stephen Henderson McNeely reveals in this deleted scene that Paul, played by Timothée Chalamet, tells Thufir Hawat that it was also what you taught me that made me triumphant over the Hunter-Seeker after Thufir's failure to protect Paul from the danger of the assassin. This is the whole scene from the draft. Hawat sits in a kind of crucible with an intricate scatter graph of thousands of dots connected with filaments of light, pure data. Hawat's pupils flicker from point to point with unnatural rapidity. Then Hawat says, "The attack on you had more than one purpose. If it had succeeded, House Atreides would be without an heir. But even in failure, it focuses our attention inside the walls, not out there. It clouds our thinking. Even a mentat may be distracted by a threat to the ones he loves." He lowers his eyes as he speaks. Paul looks at him fondly. "You taught me about hunter-seekers. Your training kept me alive. Then let us continue your training. What do you see?" And this is Hawat teaching Paul how to be a mentat, and this is something that people wanted as well, which was the showing of Paul also training as a mentat. So not only is he being trained as a Bene Gesserit by his mother, Jessica, he's also being trained as a mentat by Thufir Hawat. He's really being given all these skills to become almost the ultimate human being. Bene Gesserit, mentat, Mahdi, Kwisatz Haderach, everything, all in one being. So then in the draft, Paul gazes into the crucible, the shifting web of data, assassinations, he says. "I'll make a mentat of you yet, yes. We've lost 122 people in 2 weeks. Poisonings, bombings, sabotaged machines. What's worse, the Harkonnens are targeting people we trade with. They're sending a message. And these assassinations and bombings would have been great to see on screen, building the threat that House Atreides face. And then what follows is a Piter scene on Gedi Prime with the Mentat Piter de Vries, where he sits at his own crucible. And then the scene that follows will intercut between the two Mentats at work, in such a way that they will almost seem to be in the same room, chess masters playing a death match. And this is a fantastic scene in the script, which I really wish was kept in the movie. In Paul's bedroom, Dr. Yueh gives Paul Atreides an Orange Catholic Bible. In the draft of the Dune script, there is a full scene where he teaches him about the spies on Arrakis, and then he takes something from his pocket. I wanted you to have this. He hands Paul a tiny black book, a super compact codex with thin onion skin pages pressed tight between slim covers. The Orange Catholic Bible, a compact edition for space travelers. It belonged to my wife, Wana. She treasured it. He reaches out and clasps Paul's hands around the tiny book. Keep it with you always. When you are lost, it may bring salvation. In a draft of the Dune script, when Duke Leto, Paul Atreides, Kynes, and Gurney Halleck leave in an ornithopter to see the spice harvesters, Dr. Yueh watches them leave through Paul's bedroom window. In the Dune movie, things happen a little differently. Dr. Yueh stands at a window, but it is not in Paul's bedroom. It is in the Arakeen hallway. In the scene that was cut from the Dune film, Jessica approaches Dr. Yueh, and according to the draft of the Dune script, this is the conversation they had. A movement behind him as Jessica enters. He spins to face her, startled, tears in his eyes. So he's already emotional, likely thinking about Wana, his wife. The draft continues. Oh, Dr. Yueh, are you alright? I'm sorry. My wife Wana was killed by the Harkonnens. The last time I saw her face was in the window of an ornithopter as they took her away. Now partings make me melancholy. Pity fills Jessica's face. She lays hands on his shoulder. So many of us carry some hurt. There's no shame in showing it. Thank you, Jessica. Forgive me, my lady. I did not mean to be familiar. Wellington, your family. As she says this, she smiles at him compassionately, and Dr. Yueh closes his eyes tightly. Tears trace his cheeks. So it's a really emotional scene between Jessica and Dr. Yueh, and it gives his betrayal more context. It gives Dr. Yueh more character development, essentially. The scene with the Sardaukar sacrificing the prisoners on Salusa Secundus were originally supposed to be naked. Even the concept art originally created for the Dune movie featured them naked. So the idea of the Dune movie always being intended as a PG movie is something that I find hard to believe. Of course, in the banquet scene, Gurney Halleck plays the balisette, but it seems that this wasn't actually the case in Denis Villeneuve's Dune movie. It seems that he simply played the balisette on his bed, and after he plays the balisette, he leaves it by his bedside, and if you look carefully, you can see this in the final cut. Hans Zimmer developed music for the Dune movie for Gurney Halleck playing the balisette, so there's all of this stuff developed that we haven't seen and we may never get to see. Let's hope it appears on the Blu-ray. Better yet, an extended cut. When the Harkonnen warships arrive, there is a scene between Thufir Hawat and Piter de Vries. In the Dune draft it says, the Harkonnen warships hang triumphant over the war-torn city. Weapons, fire and cries of agony ring out in the streets. Piter de Vries stands watching with a bound and battered Thufir Hawat, guarded by 4 Sardaukar. Piter is gloating. You are playing the same old game with your spies and strategies like this was Caladan. But this is Arrakis, fulcrum of the universe. You were too slow to see how much we'd want this, how much we'd spend, how much we'd saved. You didn't think big enough. He touches his temple, and then he says,
Checkmate, old friend.
Hawat, humiliated, doesn't answer. So in this scene between Thufir Hawat and Piter de Vries, it really establishes more of the Mentats, but it ultimately didn't make the final cut. In a draft of the Dune script, Paul and Jessica actually arrive at Siege Tabr, and there was concept art that was created for the Dune movie with the Cave of Birds. But of course these scenes are going to appear in Dune Part 2, and we may still get to see these designs on film. In this behind-the-scenes footage, Chani warns Paul not to brush against the bushes.
Do not brush against the bush lest you leave a thread to show the way. Where we go, no one must follow.
Here they are on their way to Siege Tabr. Concept art was created for the siege, including a wide room within it, carved out from the rock, Whether or not full scenes were actually filmed of the siege and the room, I cannot say for sure, but this gives us a glimpse of the siege that we will see in Dune Part 2. Denis Villeneuve has clearly said that he doesn't do director's cuts, that the movie that we have seen in the theatre is the final cut, the theatrical cut. Even though that is true, it doesn't mean that he cannot be open to an extended cut of his Dune movie, just like Peter Jackson did with the Lord of the Rings trilogy. The Fellowship of the Ring extended edition is not considered by Peter Jackson to be the definitive edition, it just is an extended cut of the Lord of the Rings. So if we can get the same deal with Dune, that would be fantastic. A lot of fans would love to see the remaining footage incorporated into the story. And I, for one, as I have said before, would watch Dune for 4 to 6 hours, no problem. I don't have a short attention span, and most people these days who are used to binging TV shows on a weekend for hours and hours are used to watching the same thing for extended periods of time. We get why the Dune movie was cut the way it was cut for the theatre, to get more people to see the movie in theatres. But Dune on a Blu-ray is a completely different ballgame. I think it would be a great idea for an extended edition. But what do you think? Would you like to see an extended cut of the Dune movie? Let me know in the comment section below. Thank you for watching. If you like this video, please don't forget to like, share and subscribe, and click the bell so that you can be first to be notified of new videos. If you like these videos and wish to see more, you can support me on my Patreon. Any help there would be hugely appreciated. And until next time, see you soon.